Hi, I'm Treat Hall, and with my wife, Deb Simpson, we live in Picton in Prince Edward County at the eastern end of Lake Ontario. Prince Edward County will be known to a lot of RVers as the home of Sandbanks Provincial Park. Our son got married in Vancouver last year, and we realized that if we wanted to see them, the only way we were going to do it is if we had an RV that was up to driving across the country. We got on the Escape wait list at the start of this year, at the start of 2021, but it was going to be another year and a half before we got a new Escape. In the end, we were lucky and we were able to purchase a used 2019 5.0 in mint condition in April of this year. We've only had it a short time, but together we've been sailing or RVing for nearly 30 years, and we've got some definite ideas of how our boats or our trailer ought to work. So in this video, we're going to share 6 of the top improvements we've made, starting with number 6. We usually like to wash our dishes outside when we can, and we used to do it in plastic wash bins. But they were kind of an awkward size and difficult to store, took up storage space. So Deb, my wife, figured out that half-size hotel pans are a great replacement. They fit, we have 2, and they'll nest in the sink when we're underway, and then we can fill one with rinse water and the other with soapy water for washing the dishes outside. I made a discovery as well that in addition to being great for dishes, they're a really good way to carry your tools around. There's never enough counter space in sailboats or RVs, which leads us to improvement number 5. The last improvement we've made so far in the galley is to install a fold-out counter extension. We were inspired by the Escape option, and also there are several people who've posted on the forum and on Facebook where they've come up with their own approaches. In this case, we've got a maple interior, so we got a maple cutting board on Amazon. To be truthful, I didn't make it up. And then cut it to size, and also courtesy of Amazon, found some very robust and moderately priced folding hinges, which are very sturdy, fold down readily, and as I mentioned, cheap. People ask often about how you can hang things in an Escape if you don't have the walls reinforced. And what I found is that in many cases, you can tie in to the cabinet framing at the corners, but also there are other reinforcements where you have to look quite carefully, but you'll find, let me see if I can find one. There's one there. I'll zoom in. If you can find them, there are actually reinforcements behind the cabinetry in some locations, and the way you can find them, there are small staples that hold the paneling to the reinforcement or the stringer, and they've been filled with a good color matching filler so that you hardly take any notice of them at all. But if you want to mount something to the ply, the Luan paneling, if you look for these staple marks, you'll generally find some place that you can where you can mount into the hardwood stringer behind the paneling. Imagine it's starting to pour and you can't find the remote for the awning, which leads to improvement number 4. Our trailer came, when we bought it used, with the Dometic 9500E power awning. That was the good news. The bad news, it was that the seller's family were unable to find the remote which controls the installation for most people. It's been a bit of a challenge to get the proper remote, given how busy Dometic and all the other RV suppliers are. So instead, I installed a manual switch, and that enables me to put the awning down or to retract it without the use of the remote. There we are. The biggest challenge on this one, again, it's not intellectually complicated, except it took me quite a while to come up with a wiring diagram on the internet, which showed where to make the connection. As I say, the concept of the switch is simple, but the hard part was figuring out where to connect it. Another advantage of the manual switch, having a manual switch like this, is if we were underway somewhere and we lost the remote, even if we had one, we could still retract, we could still use the awning, is the bottom line. So far, we've been looking at relatively low-cost improvements, but that's about to change with improvement number 3. The stove that came with the trailer, the Suburban cooktop, wasn't very good, so we made a very quick decision to replace it. In the end, we decided on a Dickinson 2-burner stove shown here. It's built like the proverbial brick outhouse. It has more horsepower, significantly more horsepower than the Suburban did, and also has, in terms of convenience, comes with a flush mount cutting board as part of the package. I thought it might be difficult to install, but it actually turns out to be quite easy. The original hole that Escape cut in the countertop for the Suburban is, if anything, almost a little too wide front to back. But all that left for me to do was to cut out enough material so that there was room for the new stove end to end. I was also worried about the gas line and whether it would work out. But as it turns out, I hope you can see under here, the gas line is a perfect length and connected directly to the new stove. I had to add an extension and an elbow to get it out of the way, so it was most convenient, but it went right together. We love our Instant Pot, but we'd have to leave it at home without improvement number 2. Here's where the inverter wound up living. That's under the driver's side settee seat. In theory, it's all pretty straightforward, but the challenge is in the details. In particular, working with a pretty small physical space. So I had to put in a new stringer to support the inverter, and then a panel, which I also tied to the floor with angle brackets, and the inverter mounting bolts were tied to that plywood panel. And then there were a very short wire run to the power center and another wire run to the switch sub panel that I made up with marine style circuit breakers. Having the correct wiring for this sub panel, which leads to all the outlets, is absolutely critical to the functioning of the whole installation. So you can see it's kind of close quarters for wiring purposes, and down at the very bottom, right next to the EMS, you'll see 2 heavy cables. Those are number 1 AWG, which is about the diameter of your index finger, and those are the input cables from the lithium batteries to the inverter. The length has to be kept, supposed to be under 5 feet. In all honesty, it's 6 feet in this case. The inverter draws a lot of current, so it's really important to pay attention to the wire size that's required by the inverter manufacturer. In this case, it was a Go Power 1500 watt inverter with a built-in transfer switch to cut over when we were offshore power. The number 1 improvement we made was also the most expensive. It's our souped-up energy supply. We bought our 5.0 2019 used in the spring of 2021. And when we bought it, it had two 6-volt golf cart batteries that had been fitted. Those were fitted by Escape for the original owner. We boondock pretty well all the time, rarely have hookups. And so we wanted more storage capacity and did a couple of things. First, the solar panel, the trailer came equipped with a 170-watt solar panel installed by ETI. That was the good news. The bad news was it didn't work. I climbed up on a ladder with my multimeter and determined that there was no output voltage from the panel itself. And Go Power, the solar panel provider, shipped one to me in 3 days on warranty. Remarkable. In any event, the main challenge of installing the new solar panel was not falling off the ladder, basically. There was nothing technically complicated about it. The lithium batteries are also a simple installation, where the toughest thing was lifting out the heavy lead-acid storage batteries, which got me winded carrying them from the locker to the trailer door. The lithium batteries you can see here, I would say, I guess the main challenge was just to find a way to safely not lock them down, mount them. And I used a couple of pieces of wood, as you can see here, and some battery box, the standard battery box, sort of belts, plastic belts. You can see the size of the wires here that were used for both the main source of power for the trailer, but also the big red cable on the left is the cable to the inverter. Let's see. The other thing that we did in connection with the lithium batteries and the solar panels was to install a charge monitor right beneath the sink, which shows the accurate state of charge. This is what's called a shunt meter that actually measures all the current into and out of the batteries. There are cheaper voltage meters, but they are very approximate. This is much more precise. And because we mainly use the inverter when we're cooking, we also put the inverter on-off switch right here under the counter in the galley. The main challenge of installing both of those was the close quarters. I've got good-sized hands, and getting down in there to mount the shunt for the state of charge meter and to run the wiring safely and professionally was a bit challenging. It's not intellectually complicated, but it required more time than you'd think. That's it for 6 of the top improvements we've made to our Escape. We hope that you were able to get something out of the video. If you'd like to contact us for more information, we're both on the Escape Facebook page. Thanks very much.